Okay, welcome everybody. So we want Chumash. We want Chumash. First of all, we'll start with Vayikra. Chumash Vayikra with Ramban. I hope that everybody saw the chat and what the books that we're going to need. I did not print out a source sheet because I assumed everybody has a Chumash and Ramban. If they don't have it, they can certainly get it easily online. But we want Chumash and Ramban. We want the first pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim. Famous Ramban. Again, these are. I always like to say that there's usually probably a 5 or 10 Rambans that any Talmud Chacham who's gone through Ramban would list these Rambans as the top. And this would certainly make the top 10 of everyone's list, probably the top 5. Okay, so does everybody have it?
Yep.
Okay, I think Josh, I know, is in New York, I think, listening to us in some hallway while he's waiting for a parent-teachers meeting, so we won't expect a video from him. David Lerner, are you there? Don't see you, but if you're there, that's fine. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
Okay, we want Pasuk Beis. The barrel called Adas B'nei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem Kedoshim Tihiyu Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elokecha. What is this mitzvah? It's a mitzvah. Kedoshim Tihiyu. So Rashi learns Pshat, just since the Ramban's going to argue on Rashi, it's probably kedai to see the Rashi also. Kedoshim Tihiyu have a prushim min ha'arayos umin ha'avera. Shekol mokom she'ata motze gader erva ata motze kedusha. So according to Rashi, it has to do with Gilui Arayos. Okay, the Ramban is going to make it much more expansive. So says the Ramban, it's the second Ramban of Pasuk Beis, Kedoshim Tihiyu. So he quotes Rashi, every prushim min Arayos umin ha'avera, shekol mokom she'ata motze gader erva ata motze kedusha, Loshen Rashi. Aval b'toras Kohanim satam prushim tihiyu. It doesn't say specifically from Arayos. Prushim means to be separated. V'chein shanu sham his kadashtem v'isem kedoshim ki kadosh ani kshem shani kadosh kach atem tiyu kedoshim kshem shani parush kach atem tiyu prushim. And the idea is to be separated, and you'll see from the Ramban more like just from all materialistic engagements. Ulefi daiti eina prishus hazel lifrosh min ha'arayos kedivrei harav. Aval haprishus he hamuzkeret b'chol mokom b'Talmud sheba'alea nikraim prushim. And prushim means the people they're separated, they're more elevated in a very global general sense. V'ha'inyan. So what does it mean here, this idea of being prushim? What does that mean? Ki haTorah his hira ba'arayos. The Torah gave legislated prohibitions of inappropriate sexual interactions. Uv'macholim ha'asurim. And it also gave legislated prohibitions on food consumption. The tira, but along with the prohibitions in arayos and macholos asuros, he tira habia ish beishto. It allowed marital intimacy, ve'achilas basar v'yayin, and it certainly allowed us to eat meat and drink wine, obviously within certain parameters. Imkain yimtza bal hataiva. If we take a lustful person, a hedonist, he will find makom liot shotuv bezimas ishto obe onoshav harabos. He can be very much entrenched in zima, in znus, in sexual relations, 100% legitimate. The liot besove yayin of izola le basar lamo, and he can be completely entrenched in the food culture and in wine culture. V'yidaber kirtzona b'chol hanavalos, and he can talk in a very crass way because there's no legislated prohibition about what you can say, except lashon hara. That's the only legislated prohibition. Shelo huzkar isur zeh b'Torah, because there's nothing prohibited about it in the Torah. V'hinei yeh, and here's the key phrase, a famous phrase of the Ramban, naval birshut haTorah. Literally, it means an abominable person with the permission of the Torah. If we want to update the phrase to modern terms, we would call the person a glot kosher hedonist. He's a hedonist, but every consumption is glot kosher. Lefikach, because of this problem, and it is a problem, naval b'rshut haTorah is clearly a problem. Bo ha'katuv achrei shepireit ha'isurim she'asar otam legamre. This is Parshas Kedoshim following Parshas Achrei Mos and earlier Parshas, which clearly legislated against prohibited intimacy as well as prohibited foods. It comes along the Torah, v'tziva b'davar klali, sheniyeh prushim min hamotarot. We should be separated from excess. That's what prushim means. Separate yourself from excess. Yemai b'mishgal ke'inyan she'amru shelo yu talmidei chachamim mitzuyin nishoseim ketarnagolim. You do it all. Everything should be done with a measure, with balance, not overdoing it. Lo yishamesh elakafiat tzorich v'kiyum mitzvos mimenu v'yikadesh atzmo min hayayin b'miuto. You minimize wine consumption. Kamo shekara hakasuv hanazar kadosh, because he limited wine. Yizkor haraos haniskaros mimenu b'torah b'noach u'belot. How much damage overindulgence in wine can bring. The person should remember that. V'chein yafish atzmo min hatuma. There's only a prohibition for a Kohen to become Tameh. There's no prohibition for a non-Kohen to be Tameh, and yet it's a good idea to distance ourselves from it. Kinyan shehiz kiru big day amaretz midras leprushim. The idea that prushim treat the clothes of Amei Haaretz with tuma. U'kumosh nikra hanazir kadosh b'shomro mitumas hameis gamken. And you hold your mouth from consuming too much food and speaking inappropriately. He should sanctify himself till he can reach this level of precious. All of his conversations were purposeful. So says the Ramban, and this is what's going to connect us now to our whole sugya. This is a very general mitzvah, and it's undefined. It doesn't have defined parameters. After the Torah informed us of the legislated prohibitions, biyadav uvegufo, k'moshe amru v'skidashtem elu mayim rishonim ha'isim kedoshim elu mayim achronim. The Torah ultimately leads us to a level of kedusha. Ki kadosh zeh shemen arev. Ki afal pi. Here's the key line. Afal pi she'elu mitzvos midivreihem. These are all rabbinical laws. Ikar akasav b'chiyotze beyazir. The Torah is warning us. The Torah is opening the door for the rabbis to legislate these mitzvahs and prohibitions. Shenia nikiyim utahorim uprushim me hamon b'nei adam shem melachlachim atzmam b'motrot uvechiurim. We want to be elevated. We don't want to be like the masses that defile themselves with overindulgences. And now he comes to what we'll see when we go to the next Ramban also. V'zed derech haTorah. Lifrot v'lichlol b'kiyotze b'zeh. This is how the Torah works. Ki achrei azhara protei ha'dinim b'chol masa u'maton shebein b'nei adam. We'll see this in a minute in the Dvarim. Just the Torah, after it gives you all the monetary laws of how we're legally supposed to interact with other people, and what was that? Lo tigna v'lo tigzo lo tonu shar azharos. Don't steal, don't abuse. All of the monetary laws that we've been spending a lot of time on these way back. Then Amar Bichlal, there came now a general instruction. V'asita hayashar v'hatov. That's going to be the next pasuk we're going to see. Sheyachnis be'asei hayosher v'hahashvaya v'chol lifnim mishuras hadid. That there's a commandment you're commanded to introduce yosher. Hashvaya means compromise. And all of the lifnim mishur sadin beyond the letter of the law, liratzon chaverav, to try to make your friends pacified and happy. Kasher efaresh behagia lemikomo. The Rambam's going to explain it in Dvarim, where we're going to see it in a few minutes. V'chein be'inyan hashabes asar melachos belav v'hatrachim be'asei klali shenemar tishbos. And then the rabbis expanded it. What does that mean? And that's how we inject a certain quality, a certain environment, a certain atmosphere. Everybody's heard the phrase, it's not Shabbos day. Well, that's really where this comes from. The idea that beyond legislated laws, there's an intangible atmosphere that we try to create, whether it's in our business dealings, whether it's our materialistic consumptions, or whether it's something like Shabbos. Okay, so that's the first source that we want to see. Questions? These things are well known, but this is going to serve as the foundation for all of the Gemaras and Halachas that we're going to see. Okay, so the next thing we want is, the next source we want is Dvarim, and the pasuk in Dvarim is Perek Vav Yudches. Vav Yudches in Dvarim. Okay, so let's see. We'll start with Yud just to give us the context. Okay, everybody got it? Shamor tishmerun et mitzvos Hashem be'elokechem ve'edosav v'chukov asher tzivach ve'asizo hayashar v'hatov be'inei Hashem leman yitavloch uvosav v'yarash tes haaretz hatovah asher nishba Hashem la'avosecha. So what does this mean? Yashar v'tov be'inei Hashem, says the Ramban. So the Ramban is Yudches. Okay? Ve'asisa yosher tov b'nei Hashem. Okay? So al derech hapshat, if you take it literally, what it means is Yomer tishmeru mitzvos Hashem ve'idosov v'chukosov v'techavin b'asiyoson lasos hatov ve'yashar be'einav bilvad. In other words, don't look what people say to do. You look what God says to do. All right, and so it's talking again. It's strengthening the previous pasuk, Shamor Tishmerun Mitzvos Hashem, and you do what's Tov v'Yashar in the eyes of God, which are the mitzvos, and you don't look around to see what people think you should be doing. Ulaman yitavlach haftacha yomar ki ba'asotcha hatov be'einav yitavlach ki Hashem meitiv latovim v'liyisharim b'libosa. So this is, the Ramban here is learning Pashat Pshat. You got to do the mitzvos, and then you got to do what's Yashar and Tov in Beinei Hashem, which is the mitzvos, and not to listen to what people say. Okay. Ula Rabboseinu b'zeh medrash yafeh. The Chazal have a drasha on this. Zu pshara v'lifnim mishura sadin. Pshara means compromise. And lifnim mishura sadin, maybe we should really translate the words. Lifnim mishura sadin, inside the line of the law, meaning be always on the side of more than what the law demands. Lifnim, inside the letter of the law. You know, you go to the border, you go to the edge. Okay, when you're filling out your tax returns, your accountant wants you to get as much out of it. He takes you right to the edge. Okay, so you don't want to go to the edge. You want to stay a little bit inside. Okay. I think they tell you that it's kedai to do that so you avoid an audit. Sometimes it's worth it to pay a few bucks extra in taxes just to avoid the audit. Whereas if you go right to the edge, you're likely to precipitate an audit, even though everything you do is 100% and you'll pass the audit, but the audit itself isn't worth it. Okay, so that's lifnim, inside the law, inside the line of the law. V'akavana b'zeh. What is it? Kimitchila amar shetishbor chukotav ve'edosav asher tzivcha. The first commandment is you got to keep the laws, what God commanded you. The atah, but now, after he wrote in Pasuk Yud Zayin, Shomor Tishmru Mitzvos Hashem, to keep all the mitzvos, Eidos of the Chukov, then he says, Atah Yomer Gam, Ba'asher Lo Tzivcha. There are things that I didn't command you explicitly. Tein Datcha Lasot HaTov Ve'ashar Be'einav, Ki Hu Ohev HaTov Ve'hayashar. God loves Tov V'Yoshar, and that is compromise and Lifnim Mishuras Hadin. You should also do that. So if you understand what's really being said here is that the Ramban is turning this also into a legislated command. It's a legislated mitzvah to do Yashar V'Tov, beyond the letter of the law, compromise. But what exactly does that mean? How do we implement that? So that's the next Ramban. V'zeh inyan gadol, lefi. She'i efshar lahaskir b'Torah kol hanhagos ha'adam im shcheinav v'reyav. It's impossible for the Torah to cover every possible permutation and scenario of interactions you're going to have with your friends and business colleagues. It can't give you every way that you're supposed to run the politics and the government and the tax system. The Torah can't tell you all of the details of how you're supposed to run all of your personal interactions. Aval, achareshi iskir mehem harve. It gave you many laws, gave you lots and lots of laws, lots of monetary laws and lots of social laws, legislated laws. Kigon lo telech rachil, you're not allowed to be a talebearer. Lashon hora, lo tikom velo titor, don't take revenge. Lo tamar al damreecha, don't stand by when your friend is in danger or losing money. Lo tikal al cheresh, don't curse somebody who doesn't know what's happening. Mipnei seva takum, the honor for elders. Kiyotze behen, all of these are legislated systems of running a good society, of having good interactions with other people. Those are legislated. Chazar lomar b'derech klal, then it goes back and makes a more general statement. Yaseh hatov v'hayashar b'chol davar. You have to do what's yashar and tov in every interaction. Ad sheikanes b'zeh hapshara v'lifnei mishuras hadin. Till you reach the level of compromise and being within I'll call it beyond the letter of the law. Literally, it means within the line of the law. We call it beyond the letter of the law. Ukigon mashis kiru bedina de bar metzora. We're going to see that. We had this din. We had this in one of the earlier chaburas. We're going to see it again, revisit it. All right, vafilu masha amru perko noah v'diburo benachasim habrios. The Gemara talks about what's a kiddush Hashem. We'll have to make sure I didn't mention that, to make a note to make sure we see that Gemara also. All right. Ad sheyikra b'kol inyan tam v'yashar. So the person who does this, that's v'asisa yashar v'tov. It's a legislated law to go beyond the letter of the law. Okay, this is the background. Any questions till here? Any comments till here?
Yes. Does the Rambam bring this?
You bet he does. We're going to see. The Rambam's going to be much later. I want to go through the Gemaras, and then we'll see when we see all of these Gemaras, we'll then see how the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch and all the Rishonim paskan halacha l'maisa. Okay, it's going to be very interesting and very surprising. Okay, so the next. I'm sorry.
It's not really. Just that the Rashi went right to Arayos based on this pasuk, where it seems like the Ramban is much more
the Ramban is making
general and global. But it's
much more.
I don't like. What's the basis for the Rashi?
We're here to. Okay,
I know
we're here to study the Ramban.
That's a theoretical question, not a.
So let's start. Let's take two Gemaras in Bava Metzia, since we'll start with the Bava Metzia. There's Gemaras all over the place. There are actually three Gemaras in Bava Metzia. One of them I'm going to say for later because of a Tosfos, but we want to start with two Gemaras in Bava Metzia, Daf Lamed and Daf Pei Gimel. So let me just get my Gemara Bava Metzia. If you guys have a big Gemara with Mordechai, print it out. If not, maybe the next time I'll print out the Mordechai. We're going to start with Bava Metzia Daf Lamed.
Rabbi Karlinsky?
Okay. Yes.
Would I be correct in saying that the Ramban in Vayikra is putting the dagesh on his list of examples are Ben Adam leMakom, and in Dvarim his list of examples are Ben Adam leChaveros?
Absolutely, because one is Kedoshim. Kedoshim is your behavior in relation to your physical activities, which don't affect any other people except yourself. And that's Kedoshim. And then Asisa Yashav Atov is clearly talking about Ben Adam L'Chavero. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
The principle is that you don't go just the literal or the most strict interpretation. There are people that always look, well, there's a shita that says I'm doing okay. That's good enough. Okay, I think we mentioned the joke. We mentioned the joke before about the guy who followed every halacha according to the most makel shita, but he was always 100% meticulous. in following every halacha according to the Mekel Shita. He gets upstairs, he's waiting for his big reward because he did everything, didn't violate one halacha. And they take him into a room with a little window, a table, a straw mattress, and a tiny room, and they say, "What's it? This is Olam Haba?" He says, "According to one Shita."
I remember in the Purim spiel, the famous Purim spiel, I'm sure Pinchas remembers it, right? There was a line, there's got to be a heter for this one, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's the exact opposite of what the Ramban is telling us. Exactly the opposite of what the Ramban is telling us. Okay. So we want to start with Bava Metzia Daf Lamed Amud Beis.
It's gotta be the most
We're
Mekel
Lamed
Shita.
Amud Beis. We're in Eila Metzias. Hopefully everybody remembers Eila Metzias. You learned it with your kids at some point. All right, so you certainly had to. So the Gemara starts. We're going to start with a story of Rabbi Shmuel. Again, there's a din. Of course, everybody knows the din that when a person is carrying a load, when the donkey is carrying a load, when the person is carrying a load, right? So there's a halacha of azov tazov imo. Okay, right? There's such a din. So there's a story here. This has to do with Prika and Te'ina. We're not going to go into that whole sugya. We want to just see a story. Where does it start? Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. The first word on the line is porek. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 lines from the top. Okay, the first line on the word online is porek. It's Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Havi ka'azel bu'urcha. Right, everybody, let me know that you found it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay, so Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi is walking down on a road. Okay, and paga behahu gavra, and he meets a man. Have dare patcha de ufe. He's carrying a load of wood. Okay, isvinu v'kamitpach. He unloaded it to rest. He unloaded the load of wood. He's carrying a big load of wood on his back, and he unloaded it to rest. Amar lei, and then he says to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Dalili, help me load it back up. Amar lei, kama shavin. So Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi apparently didn't feel it's appropriate for him, the Talmud Chacham, to be helping. And he said, how much is it worth? And he said an amount. Amar le palgad zezuzah. It's worth a half a zuz. Yoiv le palgad zezuzah. So he gave him a half a zuz. He bought it. He bought the wood. Now, of course, what is Rabbi Shmuel going to do with the wood? Nothing. He doesn't have anything to do with it. And he made it hefker. Hadar zachabuhu. So the guy, smart guy, this is a goose that lays the golden egg. So he went and he made a kinyan on it. And now he's telling Rabbi Shmuel again, you got to help me load it. It's mine. You got to help me load it. So he gave him another half a zuz to make it hefker again. The hafker. So now, he sees that the guy's about to get it again. And this is going to never end. I made a selected hefker. It's hefker for everybody else, but it's not hefker for you. Okay? They wanted to get out of it. All right? Everybody got the story till here? Let's just see Rashi. It's good. Always nice to see Rashi when we do these sugyas. The Patcha Da'ape, it's towards the top. It's about a 5th or 6th narrow line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Patcha Da'ofi, Masa'oi Shel Eitzin. It was a load of wood. The Komitpach Amod Omed Lafush. He's there to rest. Dalili, help now. Hatineni. He says, help me load it back up. So he made it hefker, and the guy was zocha, and he made it hefker again. Hadar zachabot. Chazar ha'ishahu v'hichzik b'hen min hefker. So, okay, back into the Gemara. So what Yishmael said is, I'm not making it hefker to the world, but not to you. So it's not hefker to you, so you're not going to be able to acquire it. Frag Gemara, mihavi hefker ki hagavna. Is there such a thing as selective hefker? V'atanan beishamay omrim hefker le'aniyim hefker beisel omrim meino hefker achie hefker le'aniyim u'le'ashirim kishmita, meaning it has to do with payah, okay? And a guy wants to be mafkir his field so that he can be zocha. Says Rashi. Have a look at Rashi. Hefker le'aniyim avi hefker afal gav shelo kiru ela la'aniyim. Meaning, I'm making it hefker so that aniyim can take it, but not ashirim. Havi hefker lemifter min amaiser, because if it's hefker for aniyim but not for others, it's good. And Beisham, and that's Beisil says no, it's got to be full hefker. So it didn't work. So what did Rabbi Shimon do? Ella, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi lekule al mafkarin. He couldn't play games. He really made it hefker for everybody because there's no such thing as a selective hefker. And he told it to him because he figured this guy's an Amaretz and he won't know the halacha. He doesn't know the machlokas Beisil and Beishamai, and that'll get him off my back. But really, he made a full hefker. Okay, Beseder. Now says the Gemara, wait a minute. And this is where it comes into this sugya, because Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi zaken benol fichvodo. There's a din. You guys remember it from our Hashavas Aveda sugyas. Right, that it says pa'amim shemis alem, and one of them is a zaken venel fichodo. You're not mechuyev. A Talmud Chacham sees a cow wandering in the forest. He's not mechuyev to. He may be mechuyev to bring it back to the city, but he's not mechuyev to walk with it in the city because it's a zaken venel fichodo. So Rabbi Shmuel was a zaken venel fichodo. So he would have been putter. He was fundamentally putter from helping the guy. So what's going on here? Why was he even doing this? Everybody hear the problem? Yes, exactly. Okay. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Zakim Eno Tichvodo Havi, answers the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Lifnim Mishuras Hadin Hu De'avad. He did Lifnim Mishuras Hadin. Ditani. So what are we about to bring a brisa to support? We're about to bring a brisa to support the idea of doing Lifnei Mishur Sadin. Okay? Are you with me? This is going to be very important to see what source the Gemara brings to justify Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi's behavior. The Tani Rabbi Yosef, V'hodata lahem. This is a pasuk in Shmos. Right? I don't have the whole pasuk in front of me. The Gemara is going to just breaking up the pasuk. V'hodata lahem ze beis chayehem. Es haderech, that's the pasuk. Hodata lahem es haderech asher yevchu ba. Hodata, this is Moshe Rabbeinu is being told to inform the Jewish people of the derech asher yevchu ba. So we make a drasha. Hodata lahem ze beis chayehem. Says Rashi. What's beis chayehem? Everybody see where I am? Rashi ze beis chayehem. Lilmod lahem umnus lehisparnes bo chukos v'toros. Ksiv Bereisha Dikra, that you're right, that it's there to teach, or there's a girsa, okay, that it means Talmud Torah, but it means teaching them things. Hodatem lahem ze beis chayeyam, how to make a living or learning Torah. So that's what you have to inform them. Es haderech, what's derech? Gmilus chasadim. All right, asher yelchu ba ze bikur cholim. Ba asher yelchu ze bikur cholim, ba zu kivura, ve'es hamase ze hadin, and asher yasun zu lifnim mishuras hadin. So we have a whole series of words in this pasuk. What is Moshe Rabbeinu supposed to teach them? And the last thing that we're supposed to teach him is yasun is lifnim mishuras hadin. Maseh is din. Asher yasun is, because it's redundant. Maseh asher yasun. Of course you do a maaseh. So it's completely redundant. So they're making drashas that the maaseh is the din and yasun is lifnim mishuras hadin. Okay. Question still here? We're going to read on just a little bit more because there's an important line at the end of this right before the Mishnah. Omar Mar. Asher yelchu bazu bikur cholim hainu gmilas chasadim. What's the difference between bikur cholim and gmilas chasadim? Is the same thing. Why do I have two separate psukim, two separate words to teach me bikur cholim and gmilas chasadim? Lo nitzucha el ben gilo de Omar Mar ben gilo no telech mishishim b'cholyo. Right? V'afilu hachim yiboy le'lemeza legabei. Okay, legabe ba. Okay, says Rashi. No Rashi.
Legabe.
No Rashi. Okay, but the idea is that there's gvilus chasadim beyond bikur cholim. Bikur cholim is nice, but you go even more. It's gvilus chasadim. Okay. Zu ba zu kvura. Hainu gvilus chasadim. There's also gvilus chasadim to help bury the dead. Lo nitzrucha lo lezaken v'eno lefichvodo. Meaning, if it would have only said gvilus chasadim. Okay, so then maybe the zaken lefichvodo would have been exempt. But there's a special din of kvura. Okay, next. Asher yasun zu lifnei mishuras hadin. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, this is what we need. This is why we're doing this. Lifnei mishuras hadin, the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, lo charba Yerushalayim el al shadanu ba dinei Torah. Jerusalem was destroyed because the Batei Din used dinei Torah. Is that a problem? Says the Gemara. What? What do you mean they did dinner? What do you want them to do? You want them to do mafia laws? What kind of a din is that? Everybody hear the problem. Look at Rashi. It's a question. You want him to judge with violence? Right? What kind of business is that? You're telling me there's a special din to do dinei Torah, and Jerusalem was destroyed because they did dinei Torah. What were they supposed to do? Were they just supposed to use violence? Says the Gemara. No, what it means is ela ema he'emidu dineim al din Torah v'lo avdu lifnei mishur sadin. Jerusalem was destroyed because all they did is they always judged exactly the din Torah, and they never went beyond the Lifnei Mishur Sadin. So this is quite an amazing line, right? That there's again, we're gonna hear this over and over again. There's a din to go Lifnei Mishur Sadin. The fact that the Beis Din always paskin exactly the din and never went Lifnei Mishur Sadin, that led to the destruction of Yerushalayim. Okay. All right. Somebody's got to mute yourself. Okay. Any questions till here? Okay. So this is one source. If we're in Bava Metzia already, we want to go to source to Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. I just want to see here. I think there's a marsha on this. There's a marsha on this Gemara. There's certainly, we're going to see some hashkafic sources on this Gemara, but let me just see if there's a marsha.
My question is, Rabbi.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
If this is so straightforward, so how come it happened?
How come what happened?
How come they were over? If it's so straightforward, I mean, we're talking about Dayanim. We're not talking about Stam people. Right? We're talking about Batei Dinim. How come the Batei Dinim didn't take this into consideration? What's wrong?
You've never heard that sometimes the Jewish leaders also didn't do what they were supposed to do?
No, we're back to the okay.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you're surprised. That's what the Gemara is teaching us. That's why the whole everything that Yerushalayim happened was because the leaders weren't leading the way they were supposed to lead.
All right, so there we're back to that, Sylvia. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. So we want to see now a Gemara Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. It's again.
I'm just too naive.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Maybe. Okay. So here's a very, very interesting story. A little bit again. We'll see a couple of explanations about it. But one of the things we want to see. So remember, we brought psukim. We brought psukim here for the Lifnei Mishur Sadin Haderech Asher Yevchu Ba. Okay. Now we have another story, and the story is, yeah. Okay. It's 2, 4, 6, 7 lines before the end of the parak. Hani didaru be'agra. Let me make sure I'm in the right place here. No, that's not it. Oh, I'm sorry. It's further down. Rabba bar Chana. Rabba bar Chana. It's 2, 4, 5 lines before the end. Okay. Everybody see where I'm. Rabba bar Chanan. Tavru lehanu shkulai kavita dechamba. He hired people to move barrels of wine. Okay. And one of them broke. Says Rashi. Shkulai. What are these hanu shkulai? No se masaot. These were schleppers, they're porters. The tavrule shalo b'mokom midron. And the barrel broke not in a downhill way. The earlier Gemara seems to say that if they would have happened then, it might have been an onus, but it was not. It was a straight. They were carrying it straight, and they broke it. Ubipshia, or inami bedigla, or some other. They something that was like not 100. It was they weren't. It wasn't an onus. We want to say it wasn't an onus. Okay, so shakel liglimayu. So Rabba bar Chanan took their shirts as collateral to make sure that they're going to pay him for the broken barrel, because the assumption is that it was pshia, and therefore they have to pay for it. Everybody got the story straight? They were carrying a barrel. The barrel broke. All right, I'm not sure that happens today, right? When a mover breaks something of yours, they ever pay for it. But that's what he was saying. He wants them to pay. He's afraid they won't pay, so he took their shirts. Remember they were probably working without their shirts, and so after the barrel broke, he grabbed the shirts as collateral to make sure he's going to get paid. Asu amru l'Rav. So the workers went and they complained to Rav that Rabba bar Chanan took their shirts. Amar lei. So Rav said to Rabba bar Chanan, Hav lehu glimayu, give them back their shirts. Amar le dina achi. So they right away complained to Rav. This is the din? They broke the barrels. They owe me the money. Amar le in, yes. Leman telech b'derech tovim. Says Rashi, what is leman telech b'derech tovim? Look at the Rashi. Lifnim mishuras hadin. He's saying, you gotta give them, you gotta give it back to them. Lifnim mishuras hadin. All right, so they gave him back the shirts. I got to be Lefim Mishur Sadin. I got to give him back the shirts. What does it mean? It didn't mean that they're putter from paying. It didn't mean that they're not going to have to pay. Okay, but to keep their shirts as collateral, Lefim Mishur Sadin says give them back their shirts. You'll collect the money somehow or else, other way. But now comes a classic case of Jewish chutzpah. Now the workers, after they got their shirts back, they turn around and they say, Amr le aniye anan. We're poor people. Tarchinan kula yoma. We worked all day. The kafinan, we're hungry. The less lamidi. We have no money to buy food. So what are they asking for? What are they asking for, guys?
Pay us lunch.
No.
Be exempt from the repaying.
No, that's not going to help them.
Pay our salary.
His wages.
Yeah.
Look at the words. They said. He said, Tarchinan kuleyoma. Why is he saying that? We worked all day. So we worked all day. We should get our wages. Omar le zil havagrayu. Go pay them the day's wages. Omar le dina hachi. Again, Rabbi bar Chanan is astounded. This is the din? Omar le'in. Why? The end of that pasuk. The pasuk says, Laman telech v'derech tovim, the orchos tzadikim tishmor. Sefer dikrahu, meaning even further. Orchos tzadikim tishmor, the path of tzadikim. Okay, now this is quite an amazing Gemara, no? I mean, I hope you guys realize that this is quite an amazing Gemara. Okay, so
There's mega lifnim mishura sadin.
Mega lifnim mishura sadin. So eventually we're gonna get to a Tosfos that because we're gonna in another Gemara we're gonna see a third pasuk that's brought, and Tosfos is gonna make a deal about all the psukim. But let's open up the Marsha. There is a Marsha on this Gemara.
Do we know anything in terms of what Rav knew about Rava Bar Chanan, that Rava Bar Chanan was a person that was able to afford this? And would he have paskened the same way to a person that wouldn't have been able to afford this?
You're asking a great question. Says the Marsha. Take a look at the last Marsha in Parak Shishi in Umnin.
I'm gonna find that Marsha. Parak Shishi. Right. What's Parak Umnin?
It's in the Chidush Yagaros. It's the last Marsha on in the sixth parak. No, I'm sorry. It's not going to be the Marsha that we need. No, I'm sorry. The Marsha just talks about whether they were Poshim or not. Okay, so I'll have to find the other Rishonim, other Meforshim. Okay, I didn't bring it. I'll access the other Meforshim because we're going to have to see it. The question, the simple understanding of most of the Meforshim is that Rabbi Bar Chanan was a Talmid Chacham, and as a Talmid Chacham, he was required to behave Lifnei Mishur Sadin. But there are other opinions that say he was a wealthy man. And as a wealthy man, he could afford it. Two reasons why he has to go Lifnei Mishur Sadin. Either he was a Talmid Chacham, and we expect a higher level of behavior, or else he was a Talmid Chacham, which also requires a more more elevated behavior. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. You guys have. We did Chav Daled. Where's Bava Metzia Chav Daled? Okay.
No.
Now we want to open up Chav Daled, but we're going to come back to this Bava Metzia Chav Daled afterwards because of the Tosfos. But right now we want to see the Gemara and the Mordechai.
Okay.
The Gemara is Bava Metzia Chav Daled Amud Beis. So everybody knows, again, we're back in Eilu Metzias. Everybody remembers their halachas of Eilu Metzias. Is that a davar sheyesh bo siman? Are you allowed to keep it or not? You found a davar sheyesh bo siman. Are you allowed to keep it or not? Are there any conditions that you would be allowed to keep it?
Are
there any circumstances that I would be allowed to keep it?
Yeah, there are.
You guys got to learn Eilu Metzias again. What? Yeush. I found something with a siman after Yeush. Okay, so if it's before if I find something without a siman, the assumption is there was Yeush. There's an assumption that there was Yeush because there's no siman. What about something that I know the Bailim were Miyayesh? So then, even though it's a davar sheyesh bo siman, I'm allowed to keep it because it's after Yeush. That's the whole sukkahs in Eilu Metzias. Okay, we got to have that clear. After Yeush, I'm allowed to keep it because the Bailim were Miyayesh. Okay.
Yoni.
So now we want to pick this up with Rav Yehuda Havishakel v'Azil. It's a little bit past halfway down of the wide line of the narrow lines. The first word on the line, there's actually 3 lines in a row that start with the word Di Yisrael. Okay.
And which one are we doing of this the Israel?
In the third one, at the end of the line, it says Rav Yehuda Havishakel v'Azil.
Right, yeah.
And again, the Gemara earlier talks about all kinds of cases where somebody finds something where they can assume there was Yeush. If they assume Yeush, they're allowed to keep it. And the Gemara has all kinds of scenarios where you know Yeush, you don't know Yeush, you have to return it, you don't have to return it. We're going to now talk about a scenario where there's a presumption of Yeush. Rav Yehuda havi shakil ve'azil batre demar Shmuel b'shuka de beit daisa. That in the marketplace of the cereal sellers, which was assumed to be a place that was mostly by goyim. Amar lei matzah ba'arniki mahu. So Rav Yehuda asked Shmuel, what happens if we find a wallet here in this Shukah de Beidaisa, which was, Rashi says, let's just see the Rashi. Rashi. No, isn't there Beidaisa? Rashi should tell me. Beidaisa was non-Jews. No, okay. But its assumption is non-Jews. Okay? Yeah. Okay, no Rashi. Okay, so what's the din? You found a wallet in a marketplace of non-Jews, right? You found a wallet in Chinatown, in New York. You found a wallet in Chinatown. Or you found a wallet in the Shuk of Shar Shechem. Amar le harei l'shalo. You're allowed to keep it. You're allowed to keep it because the assumption is that any Jew who lost such a thing in a marketplace of Goyim, what's the assumption?
He's miyayish.
He's miyayish. Because if I wouldn't assume Yeush, what would the din be?
Would it be machris?
Chayv lahachris. So those are your options. The two options are either chayv lahachris or harei l'shalo. So the psak was harei l'shalo. You can keep it. Okay? So here's the guy. You picked up the wallet. You found it in the Shuk Debei Daisa. You took the wallet. You went home. The next morning, you get a knock on the door. Ba Yisrael, the Nosan Basimin. A knock on the door, and a Jew comes knocking and says, I heard you found a wallet in the Shuk Debei Daisa. It was mine, and here are the simanim. Mahu. What's your default?
You can keep it.
Right.
I can keep it. Too bad. You were miyayish, and it's too bad. Omar lei chayev lahachzir. Got to give it back. So says Rabbi Yehuda, tarti. What does tarti mean when the Gemara uses tarti?
It's like a steer. There's two dinim.
A steer. It's a contradiction. Right? In the old days, they would say, "White men speak with forked tongue." You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're telling me when I picked it up, you said I can keep it. I don't have to be machris. I can keep it. And then I go home, and a Jew comes and says gives me a siman. I got to give it back. That's a contradiction. Amar le lifni mishur sadin. You have to give it back lifni mishur sadin. So we're going to see is that a din, or he's telling him you should behave lifni mishur sadin. We'll see. Ki hada avu de Shmuel. They give an example of Avud Shmuel Ashke Chanach Chamre b'midbara ve'ahadrinu lemarayu levatar trese yarche shata. Okay, he found either again, it's a question: is it donkeys or is it wine in the desert? And he returned it after 12 months. The assumption is after 12 months, everybody's miyayish. Everybody's miyayish after 12 months. Okay, so what did he do? He returned it lifnei mishur sadin. So he's showing you that there are examples where a person returns it even when he doesn't have to return it. Okay? Next story. Second story. Rava Havishakal Velso Batrade Rav Nachman Beshuka, the Gildai, or the leather workers. The Amrila Beshuka de Rabbanon. And it was a place where the rabbis frequented. But Amar le Matzah kan Arnaki Mahu, because there are lots of non-Jews there, and the assumption is Amar Harei Shalo. The assumption is that the guy was miyayish, and therefore Harei Shalo. Amar le, what about Amar le Harei Shalo? But what about Boy Yisrael v'Nosam Basimin Mahu? Amar le Harei Shalo. You get to keep it. It was miyayish. You get to keep it. Wait a minute. The Jew knocks on your door. The Jew knocks on your door, and he says, I heard you found the wallet. Yes, I found the wallet. right? And I have a simon. Here's my simon. What's your response to him? Why do you get to keep it?
Too late.
Why do you get to, you found it? I come knocking on the door. Here's the simon. Why do you get to keep it? Al pi din, not lifnim mishur sadin. Do you get to keep it?
If it was in the shuk, yes.
It was in a shuk. Why did we say? Wait, we said arei l'shalo. You don't have to be machriz. Why don't you have to be machriz? On what basis are you allowed to keep it and not be machriz? What?
Yush.
We define that as miyush.
You're assuming the guy was miyayesh, correct? So now the guy comes knocking on your door, and he says simon, and your response is, "Too bad you were miyayesh," correct?
Right.
He's going to say, "I wasn't."
And the guy says, "I wasn't miyayesh." He's screaming, "I wasn't miyayesh." Says Rav Nachman, Nase kitzovech al beso shenofal dal sfinoso shetova bayam.
Whoa.
A guy sees his boat sinking in the river. Okay, his house is falling. His house is falling down. I'm not miyayesh. I'm not miyayesh. You guys aren't allowed to go into the river, into the ocean to fish out the spoils from the boat. Excuse me, sir. You're miyayesh. You're standing there screaming. You're not miyayesh in a place. I used to give an example where I understand now that it's not so obvious, but again, if you would be in a neighborhood, very bad neighborhood, you're really afraid to walk there. Okay, and you know that the people there, you're lucky you didn't get pickpocketed. Okay. And you lost your wallet. It wasn't pickpocket. You lost your wallet. And a Jew found it there. Were you miyayesh?
Yes.
Or you thought you were going to get it back?
No.
So the guy in that situation comes the next day and says, "I wasn't miyayesh." We say, "Excuse me." You're like a guy whose house is falling down and says, "I'm not miyayesh on my house." That's a generic example that the Gemara uses when somebody claims yiyush, when we say that's ridiculous. Okay, it's shatfanar, right? There's a flood and everything gets washed away, and you watch your furniture floating down the Mississippi River, and you say, "I'm not miyayesh, I'm not miyayesh." Okay, so now you realize here we have two contradictory Gemaras.
Right.
We have two contradictory Gemaras. One Gemara says you got to return it lifnei mishur sadin, and one Gemara says harei l'shalo. Even if he claims he wasn't miyayesh, you don't have to listen to him.
Right.
Okay. All right, so that is where we are going to leave it for now, and we're going to pick it up next time with more Gemaras. I'll print out the Mordechai. You guys have everybody has a Mordechai in the back of their Gemara, or do I need to print it out?
You print it with bigger type than I got. That would be great.
I'm going to print out the Mordechai. There's a few other things I want to print out, and we're going to go into it. And then
why didn't we say lifnim mishur sadin over here, even though it's like a house falling down and a shatfanar?
Because he's giving him the din. He's giving him the din.
Right, but we have a din saying do lifnim mishur sadin.
Who said there's a din to go lifnim mishur sadin? Shmuel said go lifni. I'm telling you, return it lifni mishur sadin. And Rav Nachman was telling you what the din is.
So why is it a stira? The halacha is one, but he's saying do something different.
At this point, there's no stira. At this point, we have one said return it lifni mishur sadin, and one said you're allowed to keep it. Well, let's see the Mordechai. Let's wait, guys. There's a lot. Don't jump to any conclusions. Okay, don't jump to any conclusions. I'm going to also ask you to bring in a Bava Basra, and everything else I think could be in a Bava Basra. I'll put up the rest of the sources that we need, and I'll do some printouts. Okay? And again, we will get to the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, but we got to see a lot more. Okay? All right, Rabbi, so Bezrat Hashem Wednesday. Okay?
Thank you.
Do a recording.